Hello and welcome to the Apple, iPhone, iOS voiceover compatible games interview series. I'm your host, Aaron Spelker. Now, Apple, iPhone, iOS voiceover compatible games is a group that is focused on all things about mobile accessible gaming. And through our interview series, we will interview game developers as well as accessibility influencers. And today we have an accessibility influencer as well as a community member of the Apple, iPhone, iOS voiceover compatible games group. And that's Cody Brown. Cody, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Oh, yeah, excellent. So Cody is over there in England. So we're doing this again, several hours and difference in time zone. So I'm really glad that he was able to sign on and we've been able to kind of connect. Cody, I always like to start off the interview series with, the person just telling us a little bit about themselves and, what got them into doing accessible gaming.
So my name is Blind Life Gaming on most social media platforms, well, all of them. And I'm a content creator, usually just do gaming videos, but also do a lot of music stuff based around, piano and stuff, but mostly I prefer gaming.
And has your gaming, is it solely mobile or have you ventured into consoles and PCs? What is kind of the focus of the gaming that you're doing?
Mostly mobile accessible, but I kind of want to venture into consoles, but I don't actually have one, which probably need to sort that out. But I have done quite a lot of PC games in the past.
And then, so if people go out to your YouTube page and they're looking at one of your videos, what type of content are they going to see?
So I have got a lot of playlists of gameplays. So for example, I've played through A Blind Legend, Frequency Missing, some random games, Swaddy Quest sometimes. But I mostly kind of play audio games. It's probably better than voiceover games.
Right. And, as you have, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I mean, how many videos would you say is available? If someone went out today and wanted to look at your library, how many videos are available for them to peruse?
I think the last time I checked it was about 125, and mostly my videos are about 30 to 40 minutes.
Okay, yeah, so it's a lot of hours of content.
There's quite a lot to go on, yeah.
And so you have 120 some odd hours. Obviously there's many different games that people could look at. How are you getting the word out about the content that you're putting out? Like, how are you building your brand, if you will?
So basically, I just kind of watch other content creators, kind of take advice from those, and then just kind of keep uploading is probably my best advice to anyone who asks me. But the more you upload, the more your content will get into like the recommended and the featured videos. And I kind of just post on websites, like the group, the voiceover compatible games group, whenever there's a new game coming out, which there is a new game coming out from Purple Jam, which I'll be reviewing.
Yep. Yeah, by the time this interview goes out, that will have posted just the week before. So yeah, I have an interview coming up with an interview with them as well, and a game review that's ready to be going right as that releases on August 11th, which will be in the past for those who are watching this video. So there's a lot of blind people who are out there who play games and play accessible games. What made you make the turn to actually say, I'm going to create a YouTube page and post my playthroughs and out on that site for other people to look at? What kind of made you do that?
Well, I started it in lockdown when COVID was quite high on the public eye in 2019, 2020.
Right.
I just kind of wanted to review games that haven't got much attention. So yeah, I was just kind of wanted to do playthroughs of games. I kind of checked a few games out, and the ones I didn't actually see as many playthroughs, I just did them, just to give people like an insight on what the game is and how to play it, basically.
And so from the 125 games that you've played, what's been your favorite accessible gaming experience of those videos?
I think it was the very first audio game I played. It's going to sound really bad because this game was like 10 years ago, but Audio Archery from AIIVCG, that was a really cool. It was my first audio game, and yeah, it was back when I was, younger and stuff. But game has just developed a lot more since that time.
And then, as we kind of said that, the majority of your content is around mobile gaming, and well, you'd like to do some console, you haven't been doing it yet, but I mean, do you think, mobile gaming is the most accessible platform there is right now for those who are blind or visually impaired? Is that the easiest one for someone who's blind to pick up and, get started playing games?
There's quite a lot of free games on the App Store, and if you're working towards having, going for free games, then App Store is probably your best bet. But on a PC, you have to pay for most things, and that's not really a problem for me, but it is for some people. And then if you're not, if you want to spend $10 on a game, then that's your personal preference. But that's on PC mostly. But if you want to stick to free games or like $2-3 games, I go with the App Store. But I think my favorite is the PC and console because it's just a lot more variety and there's a lot more to do in terms of, you got like a keyboard and stuff that you don't have on iOS and Android.
Now, I have I've been a little gun shy on PC just from the standpoint of one. So I am newly blind, so I went blind 3 years ago. So I had done PC gaming and I had used Steam and stuff like that, but Steam doesn't seem very accessible for the blind community. And then
No.
a lot of the stuff is like, okay, well, download this game and you can make it accessible by downloading this mod or doing this patch, and like that just gets confusing to me. And so if it's not ready, like plug and play, like boot it up and I get to go, then I get shied away.
Stardew Valley is a good example of that. You can't just as a blind user, you can't just pick up Stardew Valley and be able to play it. You need to install the mods for it. It's not just like it's a Steam game.
Yeah, that's one that
everywhere else.
Yeah, that's one that has interested me as well. And I know that there are those patches, but I'm like, that's so work. If I could get somebody to come over and like load a whole bunch of accessible PC games on my computer and do all of that stuff so that I could just sit down at the computer and start playing, then I'd be more interested in it. But obviously no one's doing that for me. So, I've ventured or have moved, basically to mobile accessible gaming just because, again, most of the games, if they're going to work, they work, as soon as you start up the game, it's working. And, all the gestures you use to do everything else on the iPhone are the same gestures you're usually doing in those sort of games. So it just makes it intuitive and easy to get going pretty quickly. So of the gaming experiences that you've had and the games that you've played, is there a thread or a common frustration of things that aren't accessible? Game after game, why can't we just get this item right?
Well, there's been a few games that I wish were accessible but aren't. Like things like FIFA, which was better, and like Madden in America. I mean, it does work, if you're dedicated enough to have a practice. But if you're not, then it's a bit difficult to get started with those kind of things.
Right.
It is possible.
Yeah, there is some, just straight up game, particularly game types that you feel like, like a turn-based game seems like, why can't turn-based games be accessible?
Yeah. It seems really easy to do as well.
Yeah, I mean,
like a choice-based RPG is quite easy to make accessible, but sometimes I get one, I'm interested in it, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's, I always say this seems like, again, turn-based game, it seems like it should just be real easy for it to do, but then, I don't know anything about coding, so I don't know what it really takes to do anything. So I'd like to think that it's easy, but who knows what the actual programming aspect of it. You said, you wish just some games were accessible, particularly on, the mobile platform. Is there a game that, came out on mobile that other people were playing and you wish you could play, but it just wasn't accessible?
The game that Charlie Seligman made, what was it called? The other one from Swaddy Quest.
Oh,
I can't remember what that was called.
Yeah, I don't know. Can't think off the top of my head what his other one
He made
is.
another game, but I wish that was accessible. It seems really interesting. I'll have a look and then I'll put it in the comments or something if I do find it.
Yeah. So when there are difficulties with accessibility, what can we as gamers, what would you suggest for us as gamers to do to really, help clear those roadblocks? Is it just, tweeting about it, making comments on Facebook posts? Is it writing developers? What can we do to help, make more games accessible?
So normally I just email the developers and get someone from, family or something to help me find the contact button, which is sometimes not accessible, which is
Right.
very annoying. Even if the game isn't accessible, there should be a contact page on the App Store. But obviously you need to go into the game to find that. I normally just contact the developers or go on the Facebook, Discord, whatever they have.
Yeah, I find that the mobile game developers, which are usually smaller, indie type of shops, 1, 2, 5 type of people. I mean, if you can get their email, you're getting to the person who's making the decision or can actually update the game. And actually, if you're clear and concise about what the problem is, and you make a suggestion or show them an example where it does work, a lot of times you'll actually see some progress on that. I think game developers want their games to work and want people to play and enjoy them. So if they can improve it, usually they're happy to do that. For the various games that you've covered on your YouTube page, where are you finding those games? How are you keeping up to date about what accessible games are out there?
So I'm subscribed to a lot of mailing lists, from different developers. The developers of medieval fantasy RPG, I can never say that. They have a mailing list that I'm subscribed to, and they email when the new game's out, new chapters out, new books out, whatever.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of websites I use, like audiogames.net is a really good one if you're on PC. And obviously the petition that's going around now about audio games being, like a subcategory in the App Store.
Right.
I also signed that, and I think that would be a great place to put audio games and accessible games in the App Store too.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of that because, most audio games are accessible, but I also would love to see, a dedicated voiceover accessible category, that you would be really 100% sure that if you went into that category,
I mean, not even accessible. It could be like, if you have hearing loss or something, there could be games for like it doesn't have to be just blind and visually impaired, but it can just be any access. Any games that work for disabilities, people with disabilities, to help them play it.
Right. So if you are, I guess, your next video that you have coming up, let's say, what is it? Where did you find it? What's your goal for that video coming up?
So I think my next video is going to be the Purple Jam, the new game. Can't remember the
Dust
name.
Like Stories.
Yeah, that one.
Yep.
But I think I'm just going to talk through. I'm not going to play it before the video. I think I'm just going to play it for the first time when I start recording. I don't want to see it. I haven't seen any videos on it. I haven't watched any videos. I just want to play it without,
Yeah, so you're going in with no information and being able to just fully
going in completely blind, basically.
Right. I was going to say that, but so what would you kind of recommend or suggest to the community about if someone's new to being blind or new to playing games, what would you direct them to? Like, here's something that you can pick up and get started with. Swordy Quest might be a little overwhelming if you try to tackle that first, because there's a lot going on in that game, but what's a good gaming experience to start with?
For audio games, I would say A Blind Legend, because it's simple, there's not much going on. And for accessible games, I probably would say Swordy Quest, because there's not that much, there's not a lot of boundaries, everything works. But maybe people would disagree with that, and it'd be interesting to see what other people thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, I like Swordy Quest from the standpoint of, one, it's very accessible.
Yeah.
There is a lot going on there, which I just feels like if you're kind of new to being blind or new to playing games, it might just kind of overwhelm you a little bit. I might steer towards, like a choice script game, a choose your own adventure game that's, just
maybe one
to
of
get started.
The choice of games, like
You're
Choice of the Dragon or whatever it's called, like medieval fantasy RPG, which I mentioned earlier.
Right, or Untold.
Things like that.
Yeah.
Or Time Crest.
Right, exactly. Yes, that might be, for me, I think a good place to start with, just because you're getting the gaming experience. Right, and there's not too many things that you have to do, and there's no time limits on anything, so you can kind of take your time to figure things out. So besides the YouTube page, is there, other realms of gaming accessibility that you're involved in, or that you try to yourself promote, or is it just doing the YouTube page, getting out to other blind people, and then reaching out to developers? That's how you're kind of making your mark.
Yeah, I like reaching out to developers. I've got a few developers subscribed to the channel, including Charlie from Swordy Quest, and I think Purple Jam as well. Because obviously I've demonstrated their games, and obviously they look their games up and just see who's demonstrating and what I think of it.
Right.
Quite a lot of people. To the Dragon Caves developer also emailed me saying thank you for reviewing the game.
Oh, nice. Yeah, they're very nice people.
Yeah, I normally post on Blind Gamers, which is another Facebook group, and the voiceover compatible games Facebook group too, asking people what games they'd like me to demonstrate.
So, as we kind of get close to kind of wrapping up, is this doing this kind of content, is this your primary focus, or do you have a background in computer programming, or are you just a lover of gamers and you're a lover of games and you're doing this kind of just as a side fun thing to do?
So I'm currently working with a few people to help code a game for Windows, but I haven't got a Mac, unfortunately. So I won't be able to code for iOS unless I do get a Mac, and then of course I will. But I'm trying to learn a simple coding language just to start off with.
What type of game is that you're working on?
Maybe a choice, like a choice-based story, something like that.
Excellent.
And then kind of build up to the bigger stuff, like audio games, shooting games, everything like that.
Right. Yeah, I find it's a lot. I had actually been working on, just on the side, I had been working on a game in Twine, which is kind of a it's kind of a mix between a choose your adventure / RPG type of experience. But unfortunately, when I went blind, the program of Twine, where you're doing all the coding, is visual in some components and just not accessible. Like JAWS doesn't work with it. So
yeah, I did try using Twine, but I tried. It didn't go very well.
Yeah. So that was my project is stalled in the water, if you will.
I'm just learning Python currently. It's like a simple language. It's not really much going on. You just need to kind of listen to tutorials, YouTube, websites. Some tutorials on YouTube don't tell you what they're typing, so that's helpful.
Right.
But you can easily pick it up.
So, just as kind of closing thoughts from you about, gaming, accessible gaming, any kind of advice or thoughts or, resources that you think people should know about, who might be, interested in accessible gaming and playing games, any words of wisdom, basically.
Well, if you really are into a game and you want it to be accessible, I wouldn't, stop and contact the developers. I would just go straight away and do it, or leave a review. I wouldn't, just leave it. I would like games to be accessible, but they're not. Like Minecraft isn't accessible without mods, but I would like it to be, because it is a Microsoft game, kind of.
Yeah, it's
just contacting developers, like being nice, telling them that you really enjoy the game idea, and then you want it to be accessible.
And
maybe give them advice on how to do that too.
Yeah, and I feel like we have the most leverage right now. I mean, accessibility is, made it into the popular mainstream discussion. And so, our voices now are probably going to be heard more than any time in the past.
Yeah, Apple are working harder with, with voiceover and stuff, adding new stuff. Like the new screen recognition feature on the last iOS, that helped sometimes with gaming. I can play a few games that I couldn't play before the screen recognition came up to date.
For example, what games?
A few choice-based games, just simple ones that weren't accessible in the past.
Gotcha. Well, great. I mean, for your YouTube page, do you have a regular set schedule? Like, are people to tune into you every Thursday? Is that when you do drops, or are you kind of, when you do them? What's kind of the schedule of your channel?
Well, I've been on vacation for a few couple of weeks, but I'm trying to get back into streaming again on YouTube and sometimes Twitch, depending on what game it is. But I'm also blind live gaming on Twitch too. But I mostly stream on YouTube because of the, the probably more audience on YouTube. but I mostly stream on a Saturday or a Sunday whenever I have time to.
On a Saturday or Sunday. Okay, great. And what's going to be this coming Saturday or Sunday?
This Saturday might be Survive the Wild. A new episode of Survive the Wild coming out.
And what platform is that on?
It's on Windows. It's a survival-based game where you basically just survive in the wild, killing animals and stuff like that. It's really interesting to come and watch.
And that works well. Is that like Jaws?
Oh yeah, it's an audio game. It's
Audio.
fully accessible.
Gotcha. Well, very good. Well, Cody, thank you so much for taking time to speak with us. Tell us about your channel and the content that you're putting out. And those who are in the Apple, iPhone, iOS voiceover compatible games Facebook group, Cody's name comes up. He's a contributor and commenter there. So it's always great to have people who are putting out the content also participating in the group. So I thank you for your words of wisdom in the group as well, and you're helping.
Can I just add one more thing into the interview, just to finish off? It's really cool if sighted developers make blind accessible games. There's loads of stories coming out on YouTube and stuff, and Facebook about sighted people just thinking of us, making games that work for us. It's just really cool to see things like that.
Yeah, like I said, there's definitely been more with the discussion and the popularity and the mainstream coverage of accessibility. I think a lot more developers are starting to think about it. And I was talking to a developer who said, I took a blindfold and I put it on and I kept tweaking the voiceover until I had the same experience as a.
That's stories that I really like looking at.
Yeah,
it's just it's really cool to see people doing that.
Yeah, and
they don't have to do that.
They don't have to do it, and a lot of times it's for the effort that they're putting in. Do they really get the sales to cover that? Probably not. Maybe
it's
not.
just the people that complain. Leave reviews. Oh, this doesn't work. This doesn't work. This isn't accessible enough. Even though they have tried. You can see they've tried.
Yeah,
but people just sometimes don't appreciate that.
Yeah, and that's to your point earlier, when you reach out to a developer, be constructive. I like your game. I'm getting stuck because I can't do this. Could you label this button, or could you change the swipe
order? I've done
order?
That this week actually on a football game that I'm really interested in, but there's one button that isn't labeled.
Mm-hmm.
So I spoke to the developer, and the response was something like, he wants to support, like iPhone 6, which is a smaller screen, but the button can't fit on the screen, so it has to be an image. So, yeah.
So there's a reason behind it, as well.
So there's a reason. He's not just doing it just to annoy people. It's just not. There's a valid reason for it.
Right. Yeah, I think anytime you reach out, best to start with kindness and start with some suggestions and work with the developer. I mean. Just think about in your life, when somebody comes and asks you something nicely, you're more likely to do it than someone comes and starts just yelling at you. So let's do that with our developer friends who are working and trying to create games that are accessible for us.
Yeah, as I said, they don't have to do it, but they choose to do it. Even if it's a free game, they really don't have to do it. Right. They just choose to.
Right. Exactly. Well, Cody, again, thank you so much for participating in the interview series.
Great.
For those who are watching this, you can see all of Cody's social media links and content in the description of this YouTube interview series. So please check out his content and subscribe, and let's help each other find games.
Thanks for the interview.
Thank you.